help us understand the distinction as they continue to build these planes, even though they're not going to be delivered, and there's going to be the software patch or fix. Is it just a software patch or fix? And do we know? Meaning, is it possible they're going to have to really do some significant retrofitting that's not being calculated by analysts and investors right now?
It appears it's still a software fix. We could have additional pilot training, but because they're manufacturing at 52 a month, this is going to impact the cash flow. It might be hard to make up.
But when people say software fix, what about, people also talk about sensors? Sensors, I would think, would be hardware, not just software.
On the Lion Air, it appears the sensor of attack sensor had a faulty reading, so that could be fixed, as well as an MCAS upgrade. We've heard a lot about in the last week additional pilot training might be required. So in terms of the deliveries, what we're forecasting in our scenario analysis is a 2-month delivery delay to customers. So we're thinking about the impact to cash there. It would be probably a push out to 2020.
And you think the resolution for all of this, meaning when there's some kind of software patch that the FAA is going to accept and training and whatever else you think is going to be required, happens when?
We're giving it 2 months, given that it technically started in November as they started working on it with the FAA.
And in terms of what that means for the stock?
It's the program is about 30% of sales,
right.
$30 billion in sales, simply speaking. So on a cash basis, this program generates about $500 million of cash on a monthly basis for Boeing, the 737 program. So the 2-month push out is about a 12% hit to the company's total.
What do you think they're going to have to pay the airlines?
Which one?
What do you think they're going to have to pay the airlines?
The airlines. I think, the airlines are being loud. If I was an airline right now, I'd probably be looking to place an order for a MAX because I know the long-term program will be intact. But I think there's a lot of vocal posturing out there. There's 80 customers for the MAX.
But if you're Norwegian Air and you say, you got to pay me for these grounded planes that I'm not making money off of.
And we see that often. We saw that last year with United Technologies and the GTF engine and its issues. With Boeing, it might be through wide bodies or narrow bodies. Or it might be through service contracts. And there'll be penalties for the groundings.
So when you look at it on a monthly, to Andrew's point, so when you look at how much it's going to cost on cash flow, hit cash flow, is the number $2 billion per month or $2.5 billion between the billion on the deliveries and what they're going to have to pay airlines, $1 billion roughly, and that's a shorter term duration of the hit?
Boeing generates about $15 billion of free cash flow per year. How we're thinking about this program's free cash flow hit is $500 million a month. So $1 billion in total would be pushed out to next year. That's not including compensation. That's just a delivery delay. Because they're manufacturing at such a high rate, 52 a month, they're scheduled to go to 57 a month sometime this year. We think that catch-up might not be possible.
I have a very quick a curveball for you, which is we had a guest on from one of the unions the other day who made an interesting comment about repairs and inspections of these planes, and a lot of that now happening internationally, not on U.S. soil, but elsewhere. And he made the argument, somewhat of an America First argument, but also a safety argument that actually some of this really needs to be done in the United States. And oftentimes it's being done elsewhere and then being brought to the United States. And they're actually then having to do a second fix to some of the repairs that didn't happen elsewhere. Do you think that the safety record and what's taking place in terms of those repairs and inspections that are being done out of the country to save money by the airlines should be brought back to the U.S.?
I think I'll go back to pilot training. I think additional pilot training might be required globally because you see pilot shortages, you see part shortages in aerospace just because the production is so strained because they're producing at such high volume. So I wouldn't necessarily say there's different geographies or having different maintenance practices.